Gengsang Chu. Lao Dan had a follower named Gengsang Chu. After having grasped more than most of Lao Dan's course, he traveled north and settled in the Zigzag Mountains. He dismissed the brazenly knowing among his assistants and distanced himself from the solicitously humane among his concubines, living among the lumpen masses and employing only the most callous stable hands as his servants. After 3 years, Zigzag enjoyed an especially abundant harvest, and the people of Zigzag started saying things like, "When Gengsang Chu first came here, I thought him alarmingly odd. But now I think that, though his daily yield falls short, his yearly yield is above and beyond. Perhaps he is a sage. Why don't we hold festivals for him as our impersonator of the dead, or build him a shrine in which to make offerings to him?" When Gengsang Chu heard about this, he turned toward the south, inconsolable. His disciples were puzzled. "What do you find so strange?" he asked. "When the energy of spring bursts forth, all the plants come to life. When the treasures of the earth get full access to the autumn, they all mature for harvest. And do you think spring and autumn can do this without availing themselves of something? It is the course of heaven that is already moving in them. I have heard that when the consummate person dwells corpse-like in his little circular cell, the common people are set into a crazed abandon, knowing nothing of what they are or where they're going. But now these little folk of Zigzag are whispering among themselves about setting me up like a ritual vessel in the ranks of the worthy. Am I then a target man, an ideal? This is how I know that I have failed to fully release myself into the words of Lao Dan." A disciple said, "Not at all. A narrow ditch is too small for a large fish to turn around in, but for the eels and minnows it's a windfall. A small hill provides no place for a large beast to hide, but for the little foxes it's a stroke of enormous good fortune. Since the times of Yao and Shun, all the world has been honoring the worthy and elevating the capable, putting whatever is good and advantageous first. It's no surprise then that the common folk of Zigzag are also this way. You should do as they ask, master." "Come here, my little ones," said Gengsang Chu. "A creature large enough to swallow a chariot, should it go forth from its mountains unescorted, can still fall prey to net or snare. A fish big enough to gulp down a ship, if it is thrown onto the shore, will be menaced even by the ants. This is why the birds and beasts never tire of the heights nor the fish and turtles of the depths. A man who wants to keep the life in his body intact must know how to hide himself, however far away he must go. And by the way, what is really worth praising about those two Yao and Shun? All their debates and distinctions are like a man drilling a hole in someone's wall and setting up a straw plug in its place. It's like selecting out which hairs to comb or counting the grains of rice before you cook them. What benefit does all this meticulous scheming really bring to the world? Elevating the worthy only makes the people compete with one another. Putting the understanding in charge just makes the people loot one another. Such things can do nothing to improve people's lives. Once they become diligent about their own advantage, the sons will end up killing their fathers and the ministers their rulers, burrowing through walls to rob each other in broad daylight. Mark my words, the root of real chaos lies in people like you and Shun, and its branches reach down for 1,000 generations. 1,000 generations of this, and I guarantee it will end up with human beings eating one another for dinner." Namrong Chu straightened up on his mat with a jolt, saying, "What then can someone like me, advanced in age, do to live up to what you are saying?" Gengsang Chu said, "Keep your body whole, hold fast to the life in you, don't let your thoughts get lost in busy calculations, and in 3 years you will have lived up to it." Namrong Chu said, "All bodies are equipped with similar eyes and ears, and yet the blind and deaf cannot use theirs to see and hear. All bodies are equipped with similar minds, and yet the mad cannot use theirs to get control of themselves. All human bodies are basically analogous. Is it external things that make them operate so differently, so that some of us, no matter how we may wish to try, just can't do what we set out to do? Now you say to me, keep your body whole, hold fast to the life in you, don't let your thoughts get lost in busy calculations. I try to learn the course, but it only reaches as far as my ears." Gengsang Chu said, "There is no more I can say. A flitting bee cannot bring to term a moth larva on the leaves. The tiny chickens of you cannot hatch a swan egg. But the big hens of Lu can do it. The basic character of the fowl is present in both, but because of the different stature of their abilities, one is up to the task and the other is not. My abilities are meager, insufficient to transform you. Why don't you go south to see Laozi? Nanrong Chu shouldered his provisions and after 7 days and nights arrived at Laozi's place. Laozi said, "Did you come here from Gengsang Chu's place?" Nanrong Chu said, "Yes." "Why did you bring so many people with you?" Laozi asked. Nanrong Chu, greatly alarmed, turned to look behind him. "Don't you understand what I mean?" Nanrong Chu looked down in shame. Then he raised his head with a sigh. "Now I have forgotten my answer, and with it the question I came here to ask." "Tell me what you mean," Laozi said. Nanrong Chu spoke. "If I know nothing, people call me slow and stupid. But if I get involved in knowledge, I bring anxiety to myself. If I'm not humane, I harm others, but if I am, I bring trouble to myself. If I am irresponsible, I hurt others, but if I'm responsible, I burden myself. How can I escape this dilemma? These 3 points sum up my problem about which I have come here, on Gengsang Chu's recommendation, to seek your counsel." Laozi said, "A moment ago, with one look into the blink of your eyes, I got the whole picture about you. Now your words have confirmed my suspicions. You're all regulated and confined by your own schemes, like someone who has lost his parents and then brandishes a pole to seek them in the depths of the sea. You are yourself the goner. You want to return to your real condition and inborn nature but can find no way in. A pitiful sight." Nanrong Chu asked to be allowed to lodge there, trying to summon up what he liked about himself and get rid of what he disliked. After torturing himself like this for 10 days, he went again to see Laozi, who said, "So you've been trying to purify yourself. Well, it seems well cooked now, that pent-up sorrow you're preparing. And there's still plenty of the hateful stuff frothing over in there, eh? But if there are external things that entangle you, it's useless to come to grips with them by tying up your hands in them. That just connects them with what's entangling you within. And if something inside you is entangling you, it's useless to get a grip on it by further tying yourself up in it. That just connects it with what's entangling you from outside. If you are entangled either internally or externally, you will not even be able to maintain hold of the course and its virtuosity, much less release your hold on the course so that you can walk it." Nanrong Chu said, "When a sick villager is asked by another villager what ails him, he can describe his sickness. But someone who knows wherein he is sick is not really so sick. When I hear the great course, on the contrary, it is like a medicine that just makes the illness worse. I would be content merely to hear of the standard procedure for preserving the life process." Laozi said, "The standard procedure for preserving life, well, can you embrace oneness? Can you keep it from slipping away? Can you know good and bad fortune without divining? Can you stop? Can you leave off? Can you ignore how it is with others and seek it in yourself? Can you be unconstrained and oblivious? Can you become an infant? An infant screams all day without getting hoarse, the utmost harmony. He grabs hold of things all day without tightly clenching his fist, for his virtuosity comes from both himself and the objects. He stares all day without blinking, for he does not one-sidedly privilege the external. Walk without knowing where you are going, stop without knowing what you are doing, slither along with all things, joining in their undulations. This is the procedure for preserving the life process." Nanrong Chu said, "So is this then the virtuosity of the consummate person?" "No. This is just what is called melting the ice and breaking through the freeze, but are you capable of it? As for the consummate person, he takes his food from the earth but his joy from the heavenly, not disturbing or being disturbed by either people or things, by either benefit or harm. He joins in none of their extravagances, nor in their plans or projects. Unfettered, he arrives. Oblivious, he departs. This is the procedure for preserving the life process." "This then is the utmost," Nanrong Chu said. "Not yet," said Laozi. "A moment ago I asked you if you were capable of becoming an infant. An infant acts without knowing what she's doing and moves along without knowing where she's going, her body like the branch of a withered tree and her mind like dead ashes. In this state, neither good nor bad fortune can reach her. And if even good and bad fortune are nothing to you, how can anything human plague you?" Empty space is vast and unshifting, and so the radiance of heaven shines forth through it. When the radiance of heaven shines forth, it reveals the humanness of the human, the thingishness of things. Hence, when the humanness is cultivated, it comes to possess its own unending sustainability even in this very moment. Sustainability means that when abandoned by the human, one is instead aided by the heavenly. Abandoned by the human, one is called a citizen of the heavenly. Aided by the heavenly, one is called a son of heaven. One who wants truly to learn should learn what cannot be learned. One who wants truly to take action should do what no deliberate action can do. One who wants truly to distinguish what is so by debate should distinguish what no debate can distinguish to be so. When understanding stops at and rests on what it does not understand, it has reached its perfection. If there were anything that deviated from this, it would be destroyed in the turning of heaven the potter's wheel. Let your body be moved only by the totality of things. Let your mind spring to life from its rootedness in the unthinking parts of yourself. Reach through to others through respect for what is most central within yourself. If you are like this and evils still beset you, it is the doing of heaven, not of man. Hence, it will not be sufficient to undermine your completeness. It will not be able to gain entrance to your numinous platform. The numinous platform has that which maintains it, but its exact locus is unknowable. It is that which is sustained, although there is nothing that can sustain it. If it operates in any way that is not also a revelation of this something that makes it complete and real, it always goes wrong. If its own endeavors end up getting stuck inside it so that it is unable to get rid of them, then every change is really another loss. If you do evil openly, it can be punished by humans. If you do it secretly, it can be punished by ghosts. It is only after you have brought both humans and ghosts into your own daylight that you can truly go forth into your solitude. For when you accord with what is within you, you walk in the nameless. When you accord with the external, on the other hand, you aspire only to the expectation of some sort of payment. When you walk in the nameless, even your everyday activities have their own radiance. But when you aspire to the expectation of payment, you become merely a merchant. Everyone sees you tottering on tiptoes, but still you think you're towering above them. To go along with other beings all the way to the end is to accept them into yourself. Temporarily putting up with other beings for whatever advantage you can wrest from them, on the other hand, means that even your own body is something you do not accept and shelter. How then can you accept and shelter others? If you cannot accept and shelter others, you will have no intimates, and for one without intimates, everyone, including oneself, is a complete stranger. There is no weapon more fearsome than your own will, for which even an Excalibur is no match. There is no thief greater than the yin and yang, which cannot be escaped anywhere between heaven and earth. But it is not really the yin and yang that pillage us. It is our own minds. The course runs through and connects everything. Its divisions are also formations. Its formations are also destructions. What is hateful about divisions is just that each part is taken as the totality. What is hateful about such totalizing is just that some present existence is what is then taken as the totality. It is for such as this that people go chasing the external without turning back, finding only their own ghosts. For to go outside yourself and attain what you're after is called attaining your own death, and the gain that is left as a result of destroying yourself can only be a kind of ghost. It is only their resemblance to the unmanifest and formless that gives stability to manifest forms. Beings emerge, but not from any root. They vanish, but not through any opening. What is really substantial is in no one location, and what really endures has no beginning or end. Since there is emergence but without any opening through which to vanish, there is a kind of substantiality to it. What is substantial but located in no position is the whole expanse of space. What has duration but no beginning or end is the whole expanse of time. Beings are born and die, emerge and vanish within them, but in all this emerging and vanishing they show no form. They are called the heavenly door. The heavenly door is non-being, for all beings emerge from non-being. Beings cannot constitute their being out of being, they must come forth from non-being. But neither does there exist some entity called non-being. It is this in which the sage hides himself. The understanding of the ancients had really got all the way there. Where had it arrived? To the point where, for some, there had never existed so-called things. This is really getting there, as far as you can go. When no things are there, nothing more can be added. Next, there were those for whom there were things, but who saw life as a loss and death as a homecoming, hence finally putting an end to the fixed division of separate identities. Next, there were those who said, in the beginning there is na being. Afterward, being is born. Thereafter, life ends all at once in death. They took na being as the head, life as the trunk, and death as the backside, saying, whoever knows that being and non-being, life and death, are held together in a single grasp, he will be my friend. Though these three types differ, they are part of a single royal clan, like the Zhaos and the Jings, whose name derives from their official duties, and the Xin clan, whose name derives from their territory. It is only in this sense that they are not the same. Being alive is like being a sediment of grime at the bottom of a cooking vessel, ceaselessly dissolving and scattering, which is what we speak of as the shifting rightness of this. When you try to talk about shifting rightness, you find it is always other than whatever you have said. Even if you happen to be right about it, it would be impossible to know. Both the stomach and the feet of the dismembered animal are arrayed during the midwinter sacrifice. They can be separated and yet cannot be separated. In inspecting a house, you make the rounds through its boudoir and ancestral shrine, but you will also not neglect a gander at the outhouse. The definition of what is right adopts the shifting rightness of this. Let us try to talk about shifting rightness. Rightness is rooted in the life process, but we let it be guided by the understanding, so our rights and wrongs end up charioting us around. For every name, we think there turns out to be a substantial reality, so we take ourselves too as some kind of palpable material. We try to control others, using ourselves as the regulating standard. That is why death is the only reward of all our attempts at regulation. In such a state, we consider whoever is useful to the world wise, and whoever is useless foolish, honoring success and disgraced by failure. And it is also the shifting rightness that makes the people of this age regard the likes of the cicada and fledgling dove as being in the right. For the embrace of the same viewpoint comes simply from being in the same position. When you step on a stranger's foot in the marketplace, you apologize profusely for your rude carelessness. If it's your brother's foot, you laugh it off. But if it's the foot of someone extremely intimate like your parent or child, you don't even mention it. Hence I say, perfect ritual propriety sometimes lies in ignoring that the other person is even another person. Perfect responsibility sees no object to which one must properly respond. Perfect wisdom makes no plans. Perfect humanity is especially intimate with no one. Perfect trust requires no collateral. Retract the will's raging arousal. Untie the mind's entanglements. Undo the ties of virtuosity. Pierce through the blockages to the course. It is rank, wealth, prominence, prestige, fame, and advantage that arouse the will. It is appearances, actions, sexual beauty, conceptual coherence, emotional energies, and intentions that entangle the mind. It is dislikes, desires, joy, anger, sorrow, and happiness that tie down virtuosity. It is avoiding, approaching, taking, giving, understanding, and ability that block the course. When these 24 items do not disrupt you, the mind is no longer pulled off center. Centered, it finds stillness. Still, it finds clarity. Once clear, it becomes empty, and once empty, it is able to do nothing and yet leave nothing undone. The course is the full array of virtuosities. The life process is virtuosity shining forth. The inborn nature is the concrete material of the life process. The motion of the inborn nature is a kind of activity, but when activity becomes deliberate and artificial, it can be called the loss of that inborn nature. Similarly, the understanding consciousness is originally an interface with the world, but as wisdom it comes to be a kind of scheming. What consciousness does not know is like what is in one's peripheral vision, seen out of the corner of the eye. For when all your actions are what you cannot help doing, outside of your control, we call it virtuosity. Conversely, when all your actions come from yourself alone, we call it being completely in control. These two descriptions are directly opposed, but the facts they describe actually agree. He was skillful at hitting a target, but not at preventing others from praising him. The sage is skilled at the heavenly, but not at the human. It is only the whole man who is skillful at the heavenly and also good at the human. Only an insect can be an insect, and it is only by being an insect that it can succeed in being the heavenly. The whole man hates the heavenly, for he hates what other people contrast to themselves as the heavenly. How much more would he hate identifying himself as the heavenly, or the human? He could hit any sparrow that came his way, authoritative shooting indeed. But if he could have viewed all the world as the cage that encompasses them, not a single sparrow could have escaped. Tang caged Iin by making him a cook, and Dukmu of Tai caged Boli she with a 5-colored sheepskin. Thus we see that it is always what they like most that cages people. A 1-footed cripple may cast off his fancy clothes, for he already stands beyond honor and disgrace. An escaped prisoner may climb great heights without fear, for he has forgotten all about life and death. If a man gets used to being insulted, he becomes impervious to shame and finally forgets all about human viewpoints. Forgetting the human makes you a man of the heavenly. Only when a man merges into the heavenly harmony can he be respected without being delighted or insulted without being angry. Anger comes forth from him without himself being angry, so his anger is an expression of his non-anger. Actions come forth from him without himself being in action, so his actions are an expression of his non-action. To seek stillness by pacifying your vital energy, or to seek spiritual power by following your mind, these are still just forms of deliberate activity. If you want to do both right, though, follow along with what is unavoidable in you. For it is something like the unavoidable that constitutes the course of the sage.